The webinar has started normally. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. If so, you can use the quick reactions. You can react with the menu bar, or you can answer in the chat. I see some thumbs up. Thanks for that. Quick intro of myself before I introduce the webinar. I'm Jonathan. I joined Qargo I think 3 months ago as a digital enablement manager. I have a background in transport, so that helps. And I'm your host for this webinar and presumably also the next webinars. Also for some live events. You see the Qargo Unlocked, it's over here. That's our branding for those events, those live events, those online events like this webinar, like our real on-site events. So happy to see you there one day. About this webinar, we have a lot to cover today, so I won't make this intro too long. The name is What's New in Qargo, and it was really an easy choice to make this kind of webinar because we mainly get the main feedback each time of our users. There are a lot of feature releases, and that's nice, and we release a lot of features, and we're communicating it via mail and also via our news feed, but some releases slip through the cracks, and that's obviously normal. So that's why we're having this webinar, to point out some of the most important features, some of the key features we launched over the past month. So this webinar will really take you through the most impactful releases. Of course, that can depend, looking at your vertical or the transport service you're in. So, but in each case, they're quite granular and important to everyone, the features that we're showing. Now, before we get started, I will show you around in the webinar room. You can see, the chat normally. There you can pop some messages in if you want. If you have any questions during the webinar, there's even a better place to ask them instead of the chat. We also have the Q&A section. It can be hidden under the 3 dots in your menu bar. That's here in the central place of the webinar. There you have Q&A, and there you can pop some. You can ask all your questions. I'm not alone here to answer your questions. I also have Aaron and Lee at your assistance. So at any point, if you have a question about a topic that we cover during the webinar or something else, do not hesitate to ask. A question that I already can answer is there will be a recording afterwards. You will receive that recording tomorrow. Think same time. So in 24 hours, there you will have the recording and a short recap of the webinar. That recording is also shareable with your colleagues that didn't register, and everyone who registered will automatically get the recording, get the link. So I think that's everything I needed to point out. Let's then navigate towards the first feature that we're showing today. Before I do, I will show you the full program. That's easier, then you know what to expect. Here we are. So this is the webinar outline of today. I have like 7 topics in total for you. We'll start off with the customer portal, where you can now show invoices and credit notes. Then we'll navigate to planning, because you're able to click, because you're able to add a stop to a trip without opening the trip modal. Then we head over to rates. We have a full rates UI redesign that I want to show you, and also some new rate charges, which might be impactful for your rate cards. Now we stay in rates, but a different aspect, the surcharges. We'll navigate to waiting hour surcharges. They have a separate category now, and then that separate category makes sure you can use them on mails and documents, and we'll also look into that. And then lastly, we have the exclusive sneak peek where you'll be able to split a consignment into parallel stages. So that's the last topic. So 7 topics today. Well, let's start off with the first one. And the first one is about invoices and credit notes in the customer portal. Until now, if a customer wanted to see or re-download an invoice, they had to call or email you for a copy. This next update lets you switch that on for them directly. And I will show you how it looks like in this video. Losing an invoice used to mean emailing or calling your carrier. Now, your customers can find it themselves, right in the portal. First, you need to set this up for your customer portal user. Therefore, head to Companies, then Customers, and open the customer's record. Turn on Show Charges on Customer Portal and save. That single toggle is all it takes to show invoices in the customer portal. It applies to every portal user at that company. Next, we want to expose the documents. Therefore, we go to Configuration, then Documents, open the Portal tab, Settings, and expose the invoice and credit note document types. This is what lets the actual PDFs be viewed and downloaded by your customer. Without it, the invoice list will show, but the customer won't be able to view or download the invoice. Now that that's sorted on your end, I'll switch to the customer's perspective. They'll see a new Invoices tab where it lists every invoice and credit note, the number, invoice date, due date, documents, the total excluding VAT, and the amount VAT. Bear in mind that draft invoices never show up here. An invoice only appears once it has left the draft status. And from that point on, any edits sync automatically to the portal. Clicking any invoice opens the detail view with the full charge breakdown and a view and download button within the invoice document section for the PDF and any attachments. Your customer sees the exact same document here as the one you would have mailed them. No more emailing for copies. Your customers can find, open, and download their own invoices whenever they need to. So that was the first topic already. Short but sweet, but definitely an interesting one to check out. So once a carrier enables that toggle to show charges on the customer portal on any customer's record, an invoice tab appears right next to the orders in the customer portal. And that shows crucial information like the invoice number, dates, the price, obviously, and also the option to download the PDF if you have enabled that option in your document settings. Draft invoices never show there, only the ones that are final. It's a small toggle, but it removes a steady stream of "can you resend me my invoice" emails. So very happy that I saw a question passing by, and thanks Luke for that, and thanks Lee for answering it. If you want to have a look at those questions, you have 3 tabs: open, answered, and dismissed. We never dismiss a question, but you can check the answered tab if you want more information. I'll head over to the second feature that I want to show you, and that's in planning. If you ever had to open a full model just to slot one extra stop into a trip, this one's really for you. We've added the ability to add a stop without opening the intermodal view and without opening the modal view, not intermodal. That's for another time. So we'll look at that feature, how to add a stop to add a trip without opening the model. Adding a stop to a trip used to mean leaving the page you're already on. Now you can do it from the Open Trip detail. In the planning module, open a trip's detail by clicking on a trip. In my planning, I use the right-hand split view, which you can set up using the position button. Then select one or more orders in your to-plan list. In the blocks view, the route lights up with a green dashed border and a green box telling you how many orders are selected and to pick where to insert them. That dialog box is also available in the table view, the so-called hamburger menu. If you prefer to use that menu, hover over any row in the route and you'll see the same insert indicator you already know from the plan board. There's also a tooltip on exactly where the stop will land and a green line confirming your selection. Click that spot and the stop is added immediately. Do note that you still need to save it. The new stops are then being added to the trip, which will also be reflected in the planning of the driver. Do you prefer the blocks view? The same ID applies there. Select the order you want to add, and the blocks route switches to that green dashed border. Then simply click that box to drop the stop in. And again, don't forget to save your added stops here to confirm. Two important things to know. This is click to insert only. Drag and drop isn't part of this. And if you open the trip detail in a second browser tab, a selection you made earlier might not show up until you reselect those orders in the to plan list. That's how you add stops to a trip without ever leaving the open trip detail. So that was the second feature. The first ones are really short and sweet. This one, first a recap before I dive into the questions. With one or more orders selected in your to plan list, the route now highlights exactly where a stop can go in both that table and blocks view. So you just click the position and then it's planned. Only thing you need to do is still save it, but no modal or pop-up anymore. For anyone planning like high stop count trips, this really saves a lot of clicks per day. Let me look into your question, Greg, that I will answer live. I assume that is about Luke's question, where you can restrict customer use on the portal. As Lee has indicated, indeed, it's a global setting to set or to show these invoices as well. However, per customer, you can enable access to the portal, but if you give them access to the portal and you have your general setting on, and they will see the invoices. I will definitely take your feedback with me to have that on a user-specific record, but for the time being, it's a global setting, but do note you can limit some access there. So hope that helps. Maybe you can also just type that answer if that's handy. I can type it later. The other questions, we will look into that too, but I think some of them are also linked to that. So we'll definitely catch up with those questions during the next video that I will introduce now. The rates UI redesign. It's a big one. It's actually, your rate card screen suddenly looked different, and maybe you asked yourself, why does this look different? Well, here's why. We have a video showing you the state before, so how rates looked like, if you might have forgot already, and how they look now. Let's have a look together. The rates module of Qargo has been updated. Same functionality, but a completely redesigned editor. Here's exactly what changed and where to find everything. Once you open a specific rate card, the page looks identical like before. Same price table, same charges, same edit icon on the right, nothing moved here. In the current version, clicking the pencil icon next to a charge opens the editor as a long flat form. All fields are stacked one after another, no grouping, no sections. On anything with multiple calculations, you're scrolling through a wall of inputs to find what you need. Here's the new charge editor. The top section is familiar, name, code, invoice process, billing entity, VAT, and also validity remains the same. But below that, everything has been restructured. In the old editor, your calculations sat in line with no visual separation. Wasn't always obvious where one ended and the next began. In the new version, each calculation gets its own block with a slightly different colored background. The calculation method, formula, fixed amount, or whichever you've set is shown in the top right corner of that block, so you can see and change it at a glance. Here's the improvement that matters most on complex rate cards. In the old version, 10 calculations meant scrolling through all 10 of them, fully expanded every time. In the new version, you simply click the arrow next to any calculation title and it collapses to a single line. You can keep only the one you're working on open and fold everything else away. Previously, adding a calculation meant scrolling to the bottom of the section to find the Add Calculation button, and then you'd set the calculation method separately afterwards. Now the Add Calculation button sits at the top of the section, and clicking it lets you pick the calculation method immediately, before the block even appears. One thing that hasn't changed, adding conditions to a calculations, that works exactly the same as before. The button is in the same place right below the calculation, it just looks better. Another small but noticeable difference: in the old editor, units weren't shown inside the fields. In the new version, units appear as suffixes directly inside each input. Currency next to the price field, quantity unit as a small drop-down inside the field itself. That makes it even clearer what you're configuring. Lastly, we've had the minimum price, maximum price, and indication fields. These sections existed before, but were easy to lose in the scroll. They now each have their own colored block at the bottom of the editor. Collapsible like everything else, so the structure of the whole charge is visible at a glance. That's a new UI for rate cards. Everything you could configure before is still there. It's just far easier to navigate, especially once your rate cards start getting complex.
That's true indeed. For complex rate cards, this makes a big difference because you don't have to scroll to that wall of rates, of calculations, I mean. So the whole calculation editor got a facelift. Calculations appear in that clear collapsible block, and the add calculation sits on top. So you pick your calculation method first instead of hunting for it afterwards. And units are also displayed in line as a suffix, making it, if you ask me, even clearer what you're exactly setting there in your rate card. And actually nothing about how the pricing works has changed. It's the same engine. It's just easier to read and edit, especially on those complex multi-condition rate cards. Thanks for your questions. By the way, keep them coming. We're here to answer them. I will stay inside the rates. We'll stick with rates. This next one isn't a single feature that I'll show. It are 6 smaller updates we've shipped since June. Mainly new rates charges, and they're all aimed at making your rate cards sharper and more accurate. I will run you through them by sharing my screen, and then you'll be able to see our new rates, and yes, here they are. You should be able to see them. What do I have in store for you? 6 updates shipped since June to help you build sharper, more accurate rate cards. Maybe another one that isn't on the slide that I should point out. We also added the ability to add your currency to a rate card. So before, you just had your general currency per account. A lot of you will have British pounds here, I assume. Now you can also set that currency inside your rate card, which will make a huge difference if you are shipping to customers from abroad, and you want to serve them in their own currency. That had to happen on order level. That changed now. It just sits in the rate card. You can link that rate card specifically to the right customers. But we also have this 6 updated features: 4 new rate charges, 2 new behavioral changes. One of those behavioral changes is the first one, the final price rounding. So you can now round the final price of any formula, price table, or percentage of charges calculation to a set increment. So for instance, the nearest price to €1 or 50 cents, or just always round up, or always go for the round down, go for the lower price. Talking about new rate charges, we have 4 of them. So we have the percentage of charges on cost calculation that I just mentioned. So base a cost charge on just the transport charge or a chosen set of charges instead of the full order revenue. We also added PTV vehicle profiles for tolling. So 4 new vehicle weight profiles are added. You can read them there: 12 to 18 tons, 19 to 32 tons, 40 ton, 44 ton. And we have done that for more accurate PTV toll calculation. Now we also added rate group distribution, and there you can choose how per stop rate group's revenue is distributed, entirely to a single order or split equally across the whole group. Then we also added vehicle as a metric column, but pay attention, that's only for cost price tables. As you can read, you add the vehicle registration as its own column in cost price tables. A different cost per vehicle, no separate formula needed. So you can just use the license plate to get going. And then another behavioral change, we added 4 decimals on time-based charges, matching the invoice exactly. So the time-based charges, such as waiting hours, storage rental, now show 4 decimals in the formula. And that makes it easier, as I said, for invoice matching, or matching that invoice exactly. So looking back at the webinar room, we have more features in store. As I said, we're sticking in the subject of rates. We're sticking to rates, I mean. I will continue with waiting hours because we also shipped something there. Waiting hours is now no longer in the general surcharges category. We have a dedicated category for waiting hours now. So until now, waiting hours were just mixed with toll, fuel, or other surcharges. But now they have their own category, and that's important for the feature that we'll show after. But first, I will show you where it lives in Qargo and how you can exactly set it up.
Waiting hour charges used to live in general surcharges. Now they have their own home and their own automation. Head to rates, then order input, and you will see a new waiting hours section sitting between general surcharges and price index. Open it and you'll be able to add a new waiting hour surcharge. There, you'll need to give your waiting hour surcharge a name. Code and description are optional. More important is configuring the rate calculation. Which entity invoices it, what's the VAT, or any nominal codes for both sales and purchase invoices. If you run multiple entities, you can add as many billing configurations as you need by clicking the button below. Then flip each transport service to active or inactive for the ones this surcharge should apply to, and save. Quick note, if you already had a general surcharge called something like waiting hours, Qargo tries to move it into this new category automatically. If it does not catch it, switch a category by hand. Nothing on existing orders changes. Next, we're going to get into a rate card. There are 2 ways. From the surcharge itself, scroll to the transport service, hit link rate card, and tick the rate cards it applies to. The second way is to navigate to rate card customers, open the rate card directly, hit add charge in the prices overview, and find it in its own waiting hour surcharge group. Just make sure the transport service is set to active in the order input settings, or the charge will not show up on orders. Now it's time to configure the calculation. Again, there are 2 ways. You can click the pencil icon next to your waiting time charge within the rate card. If you set a charge here, it will only apply to this specific rate card, nowhere else. But the power lies in adding a general waiting surcharge, and for that, you can add a charge template within the waiting hours settings in order input. There, you click Add Template. The general info will be taken over from your waiting hour surcharge setting, but you can change this if you want. Within collections, you can set a validity date and set up your price calculation. We'll pick formula because I want to show you that there's only one metric left here. The duration and waiting time metric, here you'll find the same waiting time metrics per stop, counting from arrival or from the start of the agreed time window, or the combined options across all collect and delivery stops for trips. Whilst I'm filling out the required fields, I'd like to give you some information about those waiting time metrics. Per stop metrics are recommended for most setups because it calculates waiting time independently for each collect or delivery stop, while combined waiting times are typically used for per stage pricing setups. We're now moving over to the last part that planners will love.
If a driver shows up after the time window has closed, waiting hours can just not apply. Add the arrival before window end condition and set it to true. That means any late arrival gets zeroed out automatically, so no more manually rejecting charges one by one. Once configured, save your waiting hour surcharge, and that's it. Waiting hour charges that calculate themselves, explain themselves, and show up exactly where customers expect to see them.
So that was where the new waiting hour surcharge category, the new dedicated surcharge category lives. So they have their own category with their own calculation, their own billing configuration, and the condition that you saw at the end, arrival before window, and is a good one, so you can automatically skip charging drivers waiting time if they arrived after the agreed slot. Something I would really have liked in my time as a transport planner, because I needed to check a lot of those waiting hours manually. Existing waiting hour surcharges get migrated automatically where possible, and I mean then from the general surcharges overview to the new dedicated waiting hour surcharges. If that would not have happened for you, you have like big calculations to still transfer to that new dedicated category, please reach out to us, to your account manager, because we're able to assist you on that. And then because it has its own category, the system can finally recognize it specifically, and that is exactly what unlocks the next feature. But before I go there, I will look at the chat. I see Christopher, you're in good hands with Lee. And I'm looking at you, Craig. Auto surcharging could be upsetting to a customer without conversation. True, could be the case indeed. So make sure you only activate this if you want, because the next feature will zoom in on that, because we will show you how you can add that to mails and documents. Yeah, mails and documents automatically. So you should align on your way of work if that could be beneficial to you. But either way, I'm showing you how it works, and it will be in the next video. Already like that you say it's cool. So waiting hours have their own category. You can now finally show them automatically on customer facing emails and documents. And I'll now show you how you set it up in your Qargo account. Here we go.
If your waiting hour surcharge is set up, you can get it showing up automatically in emails and on your PDF documents. First, we'll set up the waiting hour surcharge in emails. Go to Configuration, then Tasks, and open the contact task you use for email. This only works for tasks set to email as the communication method. In General Info, put your task type on Contact and schedule the task after complete stop. The responsible team is up to you, but Planner is a logical choice. You can also complete this task automatically, and then the email will be sent automatically. More important is setting up the contact settings right. Make sure the communication method is on email and everything is configured right in terms of email addresses. And then it's time to add our waiting time surcharges to our email. In the mail body, type to accolades to add a variable and search for waiting. Under order charge summary, you'll find a few options. The full calculation string, something like 2 times 50 euros, the tax excluded total, and their legal currency versions. There's also one for general surcharges without waiting, in case you want to show those separately. Navigate through the variables using the arrow keys on your keyboard. Then you will see an example of how it looks. Drop in whichever variables you need by hitting enter. That way they are in a conditional block, and this section will only appear on orders that actually have waiting hours registered. Otherwise, you'd get an empty line on every single email. Click Save, and from that point on, every contact task email for an order with waiting hours includes the calculation automatically. Time to validate what we have just set up. I created this order where you will now see your new waiting hours task on the stop level. If you click it, you will see no waiting hours are shown. So let's complete the stop time now. In this example, I'll just make sure I have enough waiting time set so something is shown there. And once it's completed, it will be reflected in your order revenue overview. These waiting hours will then also show in your email when you complete the waiting hours task on stop level. This will save you a bunch of time, definitely if you also select to automatically complete this order and send the email. The same applies to documents. You can also add your waiting hour fields to your invoice or transport documents. Therefore, head to Configuration and then Templates and open your invoice or transport document template. I have already set this up in my example, so I'll first show you how it looks like on an existing invoice and then show you how you can set this up. If I visualize this invoice, you see the waiting hour fields are nicely shown on the invoice. How do you set this up? In the template data scheme, you can add the waiting hour variables to any field. Just add the double accolades, write the word waiting, and you'll see the calculation string, the text excluded total, and the general surcharges total without waiting. Same set as in the email. As you can see in my charge description, I've added an if block to only show the text waiting time charge applied when the waiting hour charge is not empty on my order. And one last thing to flag here, existing PDF templates aren't updated automatically. If you want waiting hours to show up on an invoice or transport document, like in my example, you need to go in and add these fields yourself. That's it. Waiting hour charges now show up clearly on their own in every email and every document that.
So that was the main reason we created that separate waiting hours category. To recap, you'll find that waiting hours variables in the contact tasks email editor, total calculation, total excluding tasks. So planner no longer has to type out that you, for instance, have 2 hours at 50 euros or whatever you like by hand every time. And the same fields are available in the PDF template data scheme, as you've seen, for invoices and transport documents. And that's a big one because you can already share them on your transport documents and not only on the invoice. So the impact of that change is significant because a customer finding out about a waiting charge on the invoice weeks later versus a customer seeing it clearly on their delivery confirmation email the same day. That's a big one. So definitely valuable to set this up if you like. Also saw some questions passing by, but I see most of them are answered. Matthijs, you received a follow-up question from Aaron, so you might want to have a look there. And then also Stijn, that's an interesting question for people who joined later. The full presentation, the recording of what I'm saying here in the session will be sent by email tomorrow. Tomorrow, same timing. So you receive everything to have a look at the videos. Most of the videos are already on our Knowledge Hub, by the way. The one I'm going to show you now isn't, because that's the exclusive sneak peek. This feature isn't live yet, so you're the first to find out what this can solve. And it solves a common problem. Splitting a consignment into parallel stages is easy if a consignment can be processed as a single neat movement. And soon you'll be able to split that consignment into parallel routes. I'll show you what it looks like, and I can also share that normally next week or end of this month, we'll start with the rollout of that feature that you're about to see now. Planners can now split a consignment's goods across 2 or more parallel stages, each with its own pickup delivery, its own trip, and its own documents. Here's how it works. The consignment's goods don't always have to travel as one block. Say a planner has 10 pallets on one order.
before the trucks even leave, they can split it into 2 parallel stages, 6 pallets on one truck, 4 on the other, to make the best use of both loads. Here's how that looks in Qargo. Open the order in the execution section and find the leg you want to divide. Then click the 3 dots and split the leg. In the model, the pickup and delivery locations are locked in. You're only choosing how the goods split. Once you fill in the quantity for the new leg, the number of items you add to your new stack is automatically deducted from the current stack. However, you're still able to edit other attributes like weight, volume, loading meters, or pallet spaces. When you enter an amount for the new leg, the current leg deducts automatically, so you see both sides adjust in real time. If your consignment has more than one type of item, say pallets and boxes, you can split each one independently and even leave a good entirely on the original leg if it doesn't need to move. Once you're done, click Save to confirm, and a new trip row appears with status to plan. Splitting doesn't only happen before departure. Sometimes it's discovered on arrival that only a part of the goods can be unloaded or collected in the first place. The rest becomes its own stage, to be delivered or picked up on a later attempt. That's exactly where the leg goods come in. Just click on the field with leg details of the leg you want to edit. Need to rebalance something on this leg? Use it on either leg. Simply open your other leg in the same way you did for the first leg and then add the deducted quantity there. One thing to know, editing one leg does not automatically adjust the other. So after any manual edit, it's worth double checking the totals yourself by looking at the totals of the whole trip. However, there is a warning if collect or delivery legs don't add up, but this is not the case for transfer legs. Let's say you've made a few adjustments to your current legs, but you've changed your mind. When you click the 3 dots next to the leg that you want to adjust, and you select Remove Leg, it deletes the split off leg, but only that one. The original leg can't be removed since it's still tied to the consignment's actual pickup and delivery. Important to note here, there's no merge action, so undoing a split means removing the leg and manually resetting the original leg's amounts. However, you will be asked for confirmation when removing a leg. Each parallel leg you've created in this order becomes its own shipment on the planning board, with its own cargo, its own CMR, and its own proof of delivery. So you can easily and correctly plan it in on the desired resource. The one rule to remember, 2 parallel legs from the same consignment can never sit on the same trip. If you try it anyway, you'll get an error message saying that parallel movements of the same consignment cannot be on the same trip. Another thing to remember, the consignment status always follows its slowest leg. So if one leg is delivered and we want to complete the stop times of that order, but the other is still to plan or in transit, the order won't show as completed yet. The status will remain on the status of the slowest leg until it's completed. This makes it clear to everyone in the company that the order and trip are not finished yet. And that's parallel stages. Whether it's planned ahead or discovered on the day, the same goods can now move and be tracked on their own terms.
Indeed, that was parallel, that was parallel stages for you, and I'm curious now if you were interested in using this feature, and therefore I'm launching a poll now to see if you're going to split a consignment into parallel stages, if this feature could be of interest to you. You're not obliged to answer, but it's always nice to have your opinion, so feel free to answer the poll while I give you a short recap of the feature of what you've just seen. So parallel routes, they let you distribute goods from a single consignment across multiple movements, and that's valuable for cross-docking, shuttle runs, or when pallets are refused on delivery, and a second attempt is needed the following day or another day.
Then you don't have to create a completely new consignment. You select the route, then you split it, and specifically how the goods are actually distributed, that's up to you. The pricing calculation, that's an interesting question that wasn't asked, but I'm pointing it out anyway. That happens automatically. So costs and revenue are allocated based on what was actually transported on each route, not on the original order quantity. The video on pricing calculation will be available soon as the feature goes live. And normally that will be end of this month, beginning of September, but you'll see it in our feature release mail communication and in the news feed that you can see in your Qargo account by clicking on the bottom right button, the button on the bottom right. Okay, I see we also nearly reached the end of the webinar. In case there are any questions, you can still drop them here. We have 4 more minutes, but I have some important things to ask you too. I have another poll prepared, and that's the following one. I'm curious what you think about this format. So as you know, this was the first What's New in Qargo, where we highlight key features that we launched because we want to make sure you get the hang of them and you see what was launched. So let us know if it's valuable, and I'm happy to see the results coming in, so thanks for that. Then I have good news, because at the end of September, more specifically the 30 September, so the last day of September, we're doing a new session, also What's New in Qargo, and we have the ambition to repeat that every month. And as you know, we also have live events, and maybe we'll also communicate about one live event very soon in the UK. But I didn't spoil anything here. Some things you should know before you leave the webinar is that you'll receive the recording tomorrow with a short recap. The recording is very structured. We'll also have some highlighted items in the navigation bar, so you're able to find everything real quick. And then I'll have one more look at the chat. Usman, I understand your question to have it in French. For the moment it's only English, but I will work on my languages to assist you. And I think maybe under recording you're able to have caps in other languages, but I'm not entirely sure. So let me get back to you about that. Any open questions will get follow-up. We're at the end of the webinar, so won't pick them here now. But sincerely, thank you for your attention. Thank you for being here at our first What's New in Qargo webinar. It was a privilege being your host. Really had a blast. Hope you had as well. And hope to catch you next time, 30 September, for a second edition of What's New in Qargo. Bye-bye, everyone.